Let's go. Get up, bitch. 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 Get up, bitch.
What's up, YouTube? This is the first commentary and analysis of my channel, LiveSportsTalk, and pretty much what we're going to be doing in the future now is also making, in addition to making highlight reels and other sports highlights, I'm gonna talk about news that's going on in the sports world and what I think and what my reactions are. For this video, I'm going to give you my number 1 and number 2 seeds for the NCAA tournament. The number 1 seeds, although they're a little standard, the number 2 seeds are where we get a little controversy and stuff like that. So the number 1's pretty obvious right now. We're looking at Kentucky, Syracuse, Kansas, Duke, assuming Duke beats North Carolina at home on Saturday, and none of these teams blow a game. Even if Kentucky or Syracuse lose a game, I still think they're still going to be a number 1 seed. Then you come down to the number 2 seeds. You have Michigan State, who just lost to Indiana last night, and they would have been a number 1 seed, but they lost to Indiana, have them at number 2 now. Unless someone loses, there's not really a way they can get up in that number 1, but a number 2 seed's still really good for them. Then there's North Carolina. If North Carolina can beat Duke this Saturday, they're number 1. I give it to them. They win their conference over Duke. They take Duke's number 1 spot. It's that simple right there. Missouri, this weekend they lost to Kansas. That really hurt. That blew their number 1 chance, really. They lost to Kansas. Kansas is going to be number 1 now. Missouri's going to be at a number 2 slot. So then you're thinking next is going to be Marquette, right? Because they're number 8 in the top 25. When I was preparing for this video, I was thinking, who am I going to pick? I see Marquette, and then I click on their name and realize they're losing to Cincinnati right now. And the score of the game at this point is 42-26. And I believe that's it's a halftime score. 42-26, they're down. So they're down 16 at half. Now they're away, but come on. Cincinnati, they're unranked. That's not a number 2 seed is what's going to happen. That's not going to work. They play Georgetown next week, or not next week, but next game, March 3rd. And even if they beat Georgetown, if they lose tonight to Cincinnati, they will not be a number 2 seed. That's too embarrassing of a loss. So they're, for all intents and purposes, out. Then the next team you're going to look to is Baylor, but I would rank Ohio State and Georgetown over Baylor because Baylor hasn't really beaten anyone like really good this season. They don't have that signature win. They've beaten Kansas State as an 18 seed, but then they also lost to Kansas State at home. They beat Mississippi State, but I mean that's not that big of an accomplishment. They lost to Kansas twice and Missouri twice. I mean that's gonna hurt right there. You're just losing to good teams, and Missouri right now is a number 2 seed, and you lost to them twice. So how can you be a number 2 seed? It doesn't really add up. I don't really have them. They're number 3. I have them in there as a number 3, but not number 2 because they haven't had that signature win that all these other teams have had. So then you look down to Ohio State. Ohio State, they've beaten Michigan, they've beaten Wisconsin, they've lost to Wisconsin. They beat Indiana, they've lost to Indiana. They've lost to Kansas. They've lost to Michigan State at home. And they play at Michigan State March 4th. If they win that game, they'll be number 2 for sure. I mean, Michigan State's going to be a number 2. You beat a number 2, and you're on that borderline. I give it to you. That seems pretty reasonable to me. Now, assuming that Ohio State does lose to Michigan State, which is a very high possibility because they kind of only have Jared Sullinger. Besides Jared Sullinger, they have nothing that great. Then you look down at Georgetown, who not only just came off a 59-41 win over Notre Dame, they play at Marquette March 3rd. Now, Marquette right now is a 7 seed. I mean, that's probably going to drop, assuming they lose tonight, which it looks like it's going to happen. So if Georgetown can beat Marquette at Marquette, they're still going to be a ranked team and a good team, and that gives you what you want to be that number 2. They also beat Memphis when they were ranked number 8, Alabama when they were ranked number 12. They've already beat Marquette at home. They beat Louisville at Louisville when they were number 4. That's a pretty good victory right there. They lost to Kansas, but it was only by 4. And they lost to Syracuse at Syracuse by 3 in overtime. So, I mean, those 2 losses aren't that big of a deal because those 2 teams are better than them. They're both going to be number 1s, assuming they win out. But I still think that Georgetown, with a win over Marquette, can be number 2. Now, they have had disappointing losses, like their 4-point loss to Cincinnati at home and their 18-point loss to Seton Hall away. And they also lost to West Virginia by 12 away. The Seton Hall one's the one that strikes me the most because there's nothing you can do to explain that. They just didn't come ready to play. But, I mean, I think if they can beat Marquette and Ohio State loses and Marquette, obviously, loses tonight, I don't see any reason why not to put them as number 2. They have had an impressive schedule. They've played a lot of hard teams. I mean, when you're in the Big East, you play good teams, and that's pretty much what all you need to be high ranked. It comes down to, have you beaten good teams? Have you beaten good teams? How good are the teams? Who's beaten more good teams? It comes down to stuff like that. And that's pretty much what I'm seeing right now. So it looks to me like it's going to come down to Ohio State or Georgetown, depending on who can get that key win in their next matchup. So just to recap, you have number 1s, Kentucky, obviously, Syracuse, obviously, Kansas, Duke, assuming Duke doesn't lose to North Carolina. Number 2s, the obvious 3 are Michigan State, North Carolina, Missouri. I would pick Marquette, but they're losing right now to Cincinnati. They're down 16.5. Not looking good for them. Baylor hasn't had a signature win, not putting them in the number 2 category. They'll be in number 3. Then it comes down to Ohio State or Georgetown. Who can get that signature win and what can they do in their tournament? See who wins their whole tournament because they're both in elite, very elite divisions. Top 3 divisions in the NCAA right now. I would have to say Big 12, Big 10, and Big East. So that's all I have to say for today. I'll be trying to make more videos in the future, and probably once a week, maybe sooner than that. And comment and subscribe.